What's up with Evil Within 1 and 2? We'll look at both Evil Within games by Tango Gameworks. The games are a spiritual successor to earlier Resident Evil games. Despite being similar to Resident Evil, these games are pretty unique. Let's just get into it. What's up with the Evil Within? The game was made by Tango Gameworks and Bethesda in 2014. It's a survival horror game with a clear inspiration from Resident Evil 4. It's weird to call it an inspiration because Shinji Mikami directed both The Evil Within and RE4 back on the GameCube. You play as Detective Sebastian Castellanos. The game also has a spotlight on two other characters, being Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Nicole Kidman. It starts with the whole squad checking out a crime scene at Beacon Memorial Hospital. You run like an old man to reveal a lobby full of dead bodies. You find Anthony Hopkins and then watch security camera footage that shows a bad dude zooming all over the place like something out of MGS. This is Ruvik, and he's right behind you. He knocks you out, and you find yourself hanging upside down in like a meat locker of some kind. This whole area is your tutorial for sneaking, interacting with objects, running, and other stuff. Anyways, jump forward and you realize that this is all in a program called STEM, created by a company called Mobius. No, not Morbius. STEM is kinda like the Matrix, and Ruvik is the one pulling the strings. Your goal in the game is to take down Ruvik and break out of STEM. Okay, let's get down to it. The game feels really low budget. It's expected for a new IP, and as Tango Gameworks' first game, they need to prove themselves, I get it. The aiming feels pretty bad, and the graphics are a little rough. The art style they decided to go with is super dark and dreary looking. But the thing is, for everything that you might not enjoy, there is stuff to like. First off, the game keeps you pretty hooked. With all the weird shit going on, there's always another objective stringing you along. Evil Within is pretty slow to start, and takes a couple hours to really get going. It spends a lot of time on the world and characters when you're begging for the game to let you play. But when it picks up, it really picks up. Early levels are pretty closed off and linear, but late game, things really open up and allow you to stretch your legs and harness the full arsenal that Sebastian has access to. Speaking of weapons, the variety that you get are awesome. In true survival horror fashion, you are gathering ammo and resources as you kill enemies and loot areas. Also, with a pretty familiar upgrading system to RE4. You get green gel just about everywhere, and you use that to make yourself or your guns stronger. You sit in this BDSM chair and you select your upgrades. Upgrading Sebastian is pretty costly, but you reap the rewards of it, as your guns begin to hit harder, hold more ammo, and Sebastian can take more of a beating while also running like a track star. Let's talk about the game's hub, which is this hospital setting. Throughout the game, you'll come across broken mirrors, which will transport you here. You can save your game, access the BDSM chair, and also use this wall of goodies. A hidden collectible is finding these little breakable statues with keys in them, which allow you to open a safe. And each safe can have ammo, green gel, and some other shit. I also gotta talk about the vibes here. And I hate that word, by the way. People just use it as a general term when talking about tone or how something makes them feel. But the game has this noir, Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe that makes it really intriguing to play. I gotta circle back around to the negatives once more. For me, gameplay is king. A game's music, story, graphics, progression system, characters, and all of that come after. Those don't mean much if the game doesn't feel good or isn't fun to play. The Evil Within just doesn't feel good to me, but later game areas do feel fun to play. Should you play The Evil Within? Well, it's the perfect game. There's no way.
Maybe I should help you.
Should help you.
Shit. How am I gonna get you to a hospital?
Hospital. 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 Hospital!
What the fuck?
I hear you. And if you want to see people randomly disappear. Really the first big step for the studio. This game allowed them to make the sequel, as well as Ghostwire Tokyo and Hi-Fi Rush. Evil Within 2 takes quite a turn, mainly for the better, so let's talk about it. What's up with The Evil Within 2? The game released in 2017, also by Tango Gameworks. Mikami steps aside from the directing role here, and just acts as a consultant, while John Johannes steps up to direct. If you don't know John, he would go on to direct Hi-Fi Rush after this.
And I'm John Johannes, director on Hi-Fi Rush.
And then Shinji Mikami would leave Tango on good terms. Let's talk story. The game starts with Sebastian drinking away that he was unable to save his daughter, Lily, from a house fire. He's drunk as fuck at some bar when he's approached by Kidman. She needs his help, which has him returning to STEM. Last time STEM was based around Ruvik. This time it's based around Lily. Kidman tells Seb that his daughter is alive and she's inside STEM somewhere. It's Morbin time. Sorry. Seb is to enter STEM and retrieve the Mobius team that was sent in prior. Coming across some lunatic mass murderer photographer who has killed most of the team, Sebastian fears that this dude killed his daughter too. As you play, you will get some help from the last survivor of the Mobius team, O'Neill, and he aids you in finding the whereabouts of your daughter. You find out that the photographer was chasing Lily and eventually caught her. Your goal of the game is to find and save your daughter. The Evil Within 2 is quite a step up from the first game. First off, the controls feel much tighter and more responsive. Sebastian is nimble and snappy as he moves around, allowing you to be more precise with your stealth movements especially. Seb also has a very similar collection of weapons to choose from, and they all have unique handling. With this overhaul of controls, the gameplay is also overhauled. Tango decided to focus on more of an open world type of direction for the player. This open world is strung together by linear sections, which harken back to the first game. Speaking of the first game, aside from the enemies and the green gel returning, this feels like a totally different series, for better or worse. As the graphics jump up in fidelity, it also loses that noir tone that the first game had. Everything is much more colorful and vibrant than before. The brightest color you would see in the last game was like a burgundy. Here, the color palette has expanded tenfold. It really reminded me of the jump between Gears of War 1 and 2. Anyways, with this new change to open world and an emphasis on freedom, it is super easy to get lost. And this is due to the lack of one thing: a compass. I don't necessarily want an arrow or objective marker constantly on my screen, but a compass would do just fine. I'm playing this game coming off of Tears of the Kingdom, and all of the exploration tools that game gives you is insane. Not just a compass, but being able to set multiple markers, so you can create a checklist of things that you want to investigate. Even something a fraction of that would have been nice here. In the open world, you'll be finding green gel, as you'd expect, but now there are weapon parts. The first game had you upgrading your weapons using the green gel, and looking back, that makes no lick of sense. Now the green gel is for Sebastian, and the weapon parts are for the weapons, understandably so. With the game shift more toward the story, and Sebastian as a character, this reflects other aspects of it as well. The main one being the game's hub. No more hospital setting, this time it's Seb's office. You can walk around, look at backstory moments, leads to your next mission, as well as the normal stuff like saving your game or upgrading via the BDSM chair. Speaking of this chair, this whole section kind of feels out of place. It's like they had nowhere to put it, so they made a little hallway just for the chair. It makes no sense for a detective's office, but making it in some sort of interrogation room could have made this a little bit more cohesive. The game is a solid step up from before in a couple ways. Like I said, if you dig that gritty noir vibe that the last game brought, it's kinda gone here. But with this new game comes a new art style, revamped controls, expanded gameplay, and upgrade mechanics. Should you play The Evil Within 2? Well, it's the perfect game. If you have booty aim sometimes. Why the long face? And if you do this in every game you play. What's up everyone, thanks for watching. These games are worth checking out for sure. Especially seeing that the third game was teased in Hi-Fi Rush, it's just a matter of time. I've made a Patreon, $3 Canadian a month being the only tier so far. This will give you access to a recording of the script readings. You'll see me go through the document, improvise lines, and I even mess up quite a bit. But late game, things really open up and allow you to stretch your legs and harness the full I almost said the full Sebastian. Okay, early levels are pretty closed off and linear. That link is in the description if it interests you. Check out my socials. I'm on Twitter @SilverJS and Instagram @JSSilver. 3s for the E's. I'll see you all in the next one. Stay safe.